The tile floor shimmered in the golden afternoon light filtering through the tall glass doors of Marlowe and Finch's corporate headquarters. Each sweep of the mop caught the faint traces of footprints, smudges, and unnoticed lives rushing past. People walked through that lobby every hour of every day, but few ever paused to look down, let alone look at the woman responsible for keeping it spotless. To most, she was invisible. Camille Brooks wore her blue janitorial uniform like a second skin. Her name badge was faded, the corners frayed from years of being clipped and unclipped. She moved with quiet rhythm, mop, ring, push, repeat. No wasted movement. No noise, save for the faint swish of water and the occasional clink of her bucket against the tile. Every morning at 6, she was there. Every evening past 7, still there. Folding the last trash bag. Wiping away a fingerprint. Scrubbing a corner no one else would ever notice. She did it not because she had to, but because somewhere deep in her bones, Camille believed that care mattered, even when no one was watching. That Tuesday felt like any other. But just as she was rinsing out her mop near the elevator bank, a burst of laughter echoed through the hall. Sharp. Cold. Out of place. Careful there, a voice rang out, deliberately loud. Wouldn't want to slip on your future. A few snickers followed. Camille didn't look up. She didn't have to. She recognized the voice. Logan Fields, one of the newer junior account execs. Young, polished, full of borrowed confidence and empty charm. Always talking a bit too loudly, always looking down his nose as if it was his job. Must be tough, another voice chimed in. Cleaning up everyone's crap and calling it a career. More laughter. Camille's grip tightened on the mop handle. Her eyes never left the floor, but her shoulders stiffened ever so slightly. She said nothing. Just kept working. What none of them saw, what they couldn't have known, was that someone else had been watching from behind the structural column near reception. Julian Marlowe, founder and CEO of Marlowe and Finch, had returned early from a client meeting across town. He was still carrying his jacket over his shoulder when he stopped at the edge of the lobby, his eyes following the sound of mocking voices and the woman who bore them in silence. Julian was not easily rattled. He had built his firm from scratch. Grew it from a single rented office above a laundromat into one of the top consulting agencies in the region. He believed in data, in drive, in discipline. But above all, he believed in dignity. What he saw in that moment, employees mocking someone for doing honest, essential work, shook him more than any financial loss ever could. He didn't say anything then. Instead, he turned quietly, took the elevator up to his office, and sat at his desk. For the next hour, he reviewed employee files, not revenue reports, not quarterly KPIs, just names and behavioral logs. By the time he looked down over the atrium from the third-floor balcony, Camille had vanished. Her cart was parked neatly beside the janitor's closet. Her gloves were folded on the counter. Her bucket was rinsed and left to dry. Julian stood there a long time, replaying the laughter in his mind. He wasn't angry, not yet, but something in him had changed. When a company forgets to value the people who hold it together, it forgets its soul. He had no intention of letting that rot spread. The next morning, before the lights even flickered on in the lobby, Julian was already there. He wore black slacks and a plain white shirt, sleeves rolled. In his hand was a mop, damp and ready. Camille arrived precisely at 6:01 a.m., ponytail tight, uniform crisp, unaware that anyone else was in the building. She stopped short when she saw him. "Morning," Julian greeted casually. "Figured I'd learn from the best today. Hope you don't mind." She blinked. "Sir? I don't understand." "You will," he said, offering a quiet smile. "But for now, would you mind showing me how you get these floors looking like a showroom every day?" Camille hesitated. Was this a trick? A test? But he waited, earnest, respectful. So she nodded once, then showed him how she mixed the solution, how to avoid streaks, how to push the mop with the grain of the tile. By 8:30 a.m., employees began filing in, and they froze. There he was, the CEO, the man whose name was on the front of the building. On his knees beside the janitor they ignored, scrubbing tile and wringing out a mop bucket with his own hands. No cameras, no speech, no PR stunt, just work. Logan Fields entered last. He saw them both, faltered, and tried to crack a joke. But this time, no one laughed. The silence in response was louder than anything he could have said. Later that day, Julian called an all-staff meeting. No slides, no spreadsheets, just one sentence. Leadership, he said, starts with what you're willing to do when no one's watching. He paused. And respect isn't a title. It's a choice. The room fell quiet. He never mentioned Camille by name. Never called out the men who mocked her. He didn't need to. Everyone knew. From that moment on, things began to shift. People started greeting Camille by name. "Good morning, Camille. How was your weekend? Thanks for everything." 1 week later, someone left hand cream and a new set of gloves on her cart with a post-it note. "You matter." A young analyst brought her a coffee. "My mom used to clean offices," he explained, eyes downcast. "I get it now." Camille was overwhelmed. And then, one afternoon, Julian approached again. This time, he had a clipboard. "Got a minute?" They sat in the break room. Camille perched nervously on the edge of a plastic chair. "This company has over 500 employees," he said. "And somehow I missed how one of the most essential ones was being treated." She looked at her hands. "I can't change the past, but I can make sure it never gets ignored again. I'd like to offer you a new role." She blinked. "You'd still be with the facilities team, but as our new workplace dignity liaison. You'd help improve how we treat support staff, training, wellness, representation. You'd help me make this place better." "Me?" He smiled. "You've been doing it all along." Camille said yes. Not because she wanted a title, but because, for the first time, she felt seen. At the monthly town hall, Julian stood before the crowd. "I want to talk about dignity," he said. "About the people who keep this company breathing." He nodded toward Camille. "She reminded me of what integrity looks like." He turned to her. "Camille, thank you for your work and your grace." Then he addressed the crowd again. "We're launching the Camille Standard, a monthly recognition for quiet excellence across all departments." The room exploded in applause. Real applause. People stood. Logan, in the back, stared at the floor. From that point forward, everything changed. Camille was included in onboarding presentations. She attended leadership meetings. She helped craft new HR guidelines for how support staff were introduced, trained, and celebrated. Her team walked taller. The male clerk was invited into planning sessions. The guard at the front desk got coffee offers. People started holding doors open again, not out of politeness, but out of awareness. Julian visited the janitorial lounge twice a month. "What's the hardest part now?" he asked once. Camille paused. "Getting people to believe the respect will last. Then we'll prove it. Every day." Eventually, word got out. Internal blogs, HR panels, industry news. But the moment that stuck was a short clip of Camille speaking at the town hall. "Sometimes the dirtiest job in the room is cleaning up how people treat each other." It hit home. It was posted in break rooms, emailed in newsletters, quoted in meetings. Weeks later, Camille received a letter. Gold seal. Her name spelled perfectly. An invitation to speak at the Regional Leadership Summit. Julian had nominated her. She stood before hundreds of managers and execs, not with slides, but with a story. She told them what it felt like to be invisible, to be mocked, to keep showing up anyway, and what it meant when someone finally noticed not to save her, but to kneel beside her. She ended with this. "If you want to build a strong company, start by noticing the people no one else sees." There was no standing ovation, just a stillness. Thoughtful, raw. And then a wave of genuine thank yous from strangers who admitted they'd never considered the people who cleaned their floors, stocked their paper towels, or vacuumed their boardrooms after hours. When Camille returned, she noticed even more changes. Now, when someone left a mess, someone else cleaned it up quietly. Now, when new hires arrived, they knew her name on day one. Now, the janitorial closet had a window. One afternoon, Julian invited her to coffee on the rooftop. "Funny, isn't it?" he said. "How a mop and a cruel joke started all this." Camille chuckled. "Not that funny." He smiled. "You saved this place." She shook her head. "You listened. That's what changed it." He was quiet for a long moment, then added, "It all started with someone cleaning up a mess they didn't make." She nodded. "Most of us are doing that. Every day." And in that shared understanding, something settled. Leadership, real leadership, isn't loud. It's not always in the corner office or at the head of the table. Sometimes, it begins in silence, with someone wiping away what others leave behind, and someone else who finally sees them do it. That's when everything changes. That's when everything begins.